Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to do a reading and a talk, and there's been a lot that's gone on for me this last week. I almost said month, but it's only been a week. So there's a lot kind of like buzzing around that kind of wants to be talked about, and we'll see how it comes out. It feels all sort of disconnected, but of course it's all very connected. And so what I felt, and you might be relating to this, was this huge wave that came in. I'm not talking about energy. I mean, just the way, I was just seeing if I was cutting off my head. The way that I experienced this week was like a wave came and toppled me over, and I was just under this wave. And now that the wave has passed and I've come out, I'm in a completely different place. And so one of the things that happened for me was, so there were like several different things going on at once that were unrelated, but it was just this perfect crunch. And one of those things, and I think this is where a lot of people are going to be relating, I think this is collective, is that I got super triggered into really old, like some of the nastiest of experiences that I had and some of the deepest pain. And so this often happens with my daughter because she was raised in the environment that I was abused in, so some of those sort of like patterns and energies have gotten really normalized for her. So there will be like snippets of that energy, and it's just the perfect cosmic setup because it gets me to go back into and feel that stuff and purge it and clear it and all that. But this one, it's like I felt this pattern. I saw like all the times and ways that I had experienced this. And for me, and this I'm sharing because again, you might be relating. This might be a theme that a lot of us are working on right now. But basically the theme was my needs don't matter, my boundaries are not respected, and I'm gaslit and I'm manipulated into giving an inch and then a mile is taken. And the very thing I was trying to protect myself from with my own inner masculine, what is, starts to come through, where I'm demolished. And so that type of thing. And so that happened all the time throughout my marriage, and just not having but what it really linked up to. And so I know a lot of you that listen to these readings are going to relate to this. It's like, we're here on mission. We're wired differently. We're not normal. We'll never be normal. We were never able to be normal. And so we have different requirements of self-care. Right, because we're empaths and we feel everything and we decode everything, and our nervous systems get overstimulated because we're taking in so many things. So our boundaries are really important, and our boundaries are always changing. We're always changing. We're shapeshifters. So it's like, there's no consistency, or there is, but anyway, and a lot of people don't understand. So how many times in your life have you heard, oh, you're too sensitive, or, oh, you think too much, or, oh, don't make such a big deal about it. Meanwhile, a lot of what we're picking up on is subtleties in the energetics, the behind, the distortions in the energy fields. And so it's hard for us to be around certain energies for too long, or to have certain energies in our sacred space. Okay, all this type of things. And so I've had many relationships where I've just been trying to take care of myself and set boundaries around environments, and then the partner would get to varying degrees. Some would just take it personal or be annoyed, or and then the one in my marriage, it's like he just wanted what he wanted, and I was in his way. And so anyway, that kind of thing, right? But then what that really links back to is the whole denial and abandonment of the soul, the feminine, everything that I'm always talking about, turning back to the feminine, turning back to our inner oracle that knows, because that inner oracle connects us to the behind the scenes truth outside of the programming. And so we've gotten so conditioned, and everybody's gotten so conditioned in this society, that it's easy to ignore our own inner knowing, or to not speak up for your needs, or to stake your boundaries very clearly. And so this has been around me a lot this week, where like I live on a main road, and I like to sit in the sun in the morning and put my feet on the earth, and I have a little side yard, but it's right on this main road out of town, but it's where the east sun comes in. So I sit out there in the morning, and I'm surrounded by neighbors, and I'm not friendly. Like I am friendly, but not then, right then. I'm carving out this space for myself to do my morning ritual, and I just close my eyes and I just ignore everybody. And I know that some of my neighbors are sort of like, they have an opinion about me because I'm not friendly, but I'm taking care of myself. And in the past, I just wouldn't go out there because it's like I couldn't even conceive of not being friendly or not doing what people wanted and saying hi. And, and now I have those boundaries intact. I'm just taking care of myself, and people can think whatever the fuck they want about me. But so that's been coming up, that type of thing too, where, friends of mine that are really nice, like really nice, and they really value people being nice and people being kind. And I'm like, well, I kind of had to work really hard to get out of that pattern, And so, but yeah, again, the whole thing around the boundaries and sticking up for yourself. So this is like the real minute version of our inner masculines, allowing our inner masculines to take care of our inner priestess and our inner oracle, whether you're a man or you're a woman, and honoring and valuing your needs for self-care so that your nervous system can be stabilized, so that you can do what you came to this planet to do in an effective way, where you're not constantly processing everybody else's energy and being on the brink of a nervous breakdown because you don't know how to secure your boundaries and secure your sacred space. And so and then, of course, you don't know how to in a critical way, because all of society teaches us not to do that and to please everybody else. And anyway, so it seems like there's a round of this kind of up, or some version of this, of really needing to slam your staff into the ground. And so what happened for me is I got triggered about that. And then I was revisiting all these really awful situations in my past of when that happened. But then it went farther back, it went farther back. I went through all the timelines and back to the beginning where before the fall, before we got separated, because what it's really about is that split between the masculine and feminine, the polarities within us and within our world, and being literally capped where it's hard to access that configuration. So that's what we're recoding. We're grabbing and aligning with and anchoring and reclaiming. We're reclaiming that template that got lost because we're able to see it now. I think a lot of this has to do, again, with Through Eye Atlas and the other comments. I know haven't talked about that in a little bit, but I was talking about that a lot before. Through Eye Atlas is coming close to the Earth on the 19th, so that's just a week from today. So again, a lot of assistance with that and the other interstellar, intergalactic energies and consciousness in our galaxy right now, assisting us. So we're talking about this when a lot of us first started connecting with the Through Eye Atlas consciousness energy, because it was outside of our system, outside of our program. Oh, I forgot to turn my notifications off. Okay, trying not to get distracted. Hopefully people won't write. And so, connecting us with that memory, with that memory, and a lot of it coming back on, but that choice where we have to turn towards it and grab it. But there's going to be these perfect catalysts that come along that trigger us. So what I got in touch with was my primal rage, my sacred rage. And so it's such a blessing when that happens, because sacred rage is like a muse. You can't conjure it in its purest form. It comes when it's time. It's like Kali. It comes when it's time, and it brings you your power back. And so that's what I did. I kind of commanded my space, my oracle space, the space of the soul, the space of the soul, the space of the truth of reality as it runs through me, and my right to protect and defend it as was intended, as we've been working on throughout all our lifetimes, landing now. It was like this divine moment, which felt so collective to me on some level. Of course, doesn't mean that we're all doing it on the same day or even in the same week, but within the frame and the time space continuum, this kind of energy being worked with that sacred rage, where it just connects you to something you forgot, and so I felt my energy like reverberate, boom, 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 like that. Like I was roaring like a dragon. It was green and magenta, what I saw, which is interesting because I have a no, you can't see it. Oh man, I have this like green and magenta plant right here, but that was the color of the dragon. I can't pull a piece over, I'll break it. But anyway, and so, and it just reverberated out through space, out through all time and space. And I felt that reconnection, and I felt my power come back to me, and it was real and it's powerful. So that's one of the things that I've really been feeling guided to share as well, is just that reminder that what we do in the energetic, astral, etheric spaces is more powerful than anything else, because this is all energy, and it's all brought into form through focus and intention. And we can do so much behind the scenes with our intention, or with, especially if we're harnessing. So this is the other thing, especially if we're harnessing the elements, basically. So right before this all happened, I had a reconnection with the water. And so I was connecting with the elements. The time that we had the fire here, if you've been listening to me for a while, in June we had a really big fire, and so I was journeying with the fire. Then I started journeying with the water, and so there was this whole like alchemy going on with the fire and the activation and the purification, and then the water with the surrender and the trust and the flow. And so there was a lot of messaging around the elements at that time, and so and it was really interesting in journeying with the water. So I was programming my water at that time, and I connected with, so it's like, again, it's like whenever you find a portal through an element, whether it's an element, an emotion representing an element like the sacred rage, or like the water, the tears and the purification and that surrender. It's like you can portal through time, through that element, through that emotion, but what it actually is the element, okay? And you can portal through time through, if you have disasters in your area like fires or hurricanes. A lot of us, we journey with with nature, when she's purging, and we portal through time, and we're able to correct timelines and get really interdimensional in those times. Okay, so I feel like there's a real I'm getting chills. A real call again to work with our elemental nature. And what's really interesting is Magenta Pixie, Petra McGuire, Magenta Pixie, if you follow her, she was saying that today, starting today, December 12th to the 21st, there's an opening, I'm getting chills again, in the she was giving examples of, like, we could call it the Fey realm, we could call it the elemental realm, we could say dragons and fairies and gnomes, but it's the archetypes and the consciousness of the energy of the invisible realm in nature, the elements, the elementals, and the devas that represent and the spirits of those elements, right? And we have those within us as well. So it's like there's this huge opening, this huge portal right now, and I've talked to several different people who just recently started working more consciously with the water again in the last like 3 or 4, 5 days this week. And so the same thing had happened for me, where it was calling again, because I had sort of gotten out of the habit. I had gotten out of the habit for a variety of reasons, and I might go into that. That might be related as well. But for now, just saying, reconnecting with the water. And then right after that happened, I had this situation. First of all, I felt this wave come in. It literally felt like a wave to me, which is interesting, because when I was all throughout my life, I would have, and again, if you've been listening for a while, you might have heard me talk about this before, but I'll repeat because I know there are a lot of new people always. And so I used to have dreams of tsunamis. And so the wave would be coming and I would run. And I would run and run and run. And I always woke up before the wave hit and there was any catastrophe. But this went on for decades. And then the one night I was with my father in the dream. And I think that's really interesting because he represents the masculine energy for me, my inner masculine energy. So I was with the masculine energy, with the father energy. And in this dream, probably because of the container of the masculine, I felt safe. And I felt that I was okay. And so I went down to where the water and the sand meet each other. And I just laid down. It's like I just surrendered. I just accepted that the wave was coming. And when I did that, the wave never came. And what happened was everything got, like, I would say the energy changed, like got transmuted, or alchemized from danger. And I'm a little bit distracted because I can see out of the corner of my eye that I'm cutting my head off a little bit. So there. Okay, I just had to fix that. It's like the energy got alchemized away, or it turned away, it transmuted away from danger into this ecstasy. And so I ran into the water, and there were all these other people there, and it was a dolphin and a mermaid energy. We were playing in the water. It was like the joy and the ecstasy and this bliss. And so I completely transformed this pattern. And so then I never had the dream. No, that's not true. I did have the dream again. And when I would go into the water. So it broke the pattern enough that I didn't run anymore. It was like, oh, it's playtime. Oh, it's, whatever. But then I didn't have it for a long time, for I don't know how long, maybe like definitely over 7 years. And so I had it again. I had the dream one night, and I don't remember the details of it. I think I might have even ran in this dream. I can't remember the details, but I noted it. I noted that I had that dream, and I'd had it at this time. And then shortly after that, I would say 3 or 4 days after that, I started having the body activations through the sun, because this is right around the time where we started, the solar maximum started. And so we were getting hit with energies constantly instead of spaced out. Not just the flares, but just the energies that were coming in, like the pre-energies. Amanda Lawrence was talking about that. It was November 2021, I think it was, when the energetics of the influx that would come in, and then we would integrate, and then we wouldn't have anything for a while. It was like they were constant, boom, 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 boom. Shortly after that, the flares started. But so we were having backside of the backside of the sun flares, and that's when all this started for me. So then Amanda Lawrence had a learning dream the same night I had my tsunami dream, and hers was with the sun. And so she was talking about the sun. So it's like I was finally able to connect my tsunami dreams with the waves of energy, the activation energies, the cosmic, galactic, wider energies that were coming in to assist us. And even though I was afraid, again, I was running from the wave, I was running from the wave again, which is interesting because I'm seeing all these patterns. When the fire was here in June, and I had a dream, and I was running from the energy of the fire. So again, here's the elements of activation: fire through the sun, and then the water through the tsunami. And so again, the elements and the combination of activation, purging, and surrender and flow. And so what happened also along this week for me is that I found out that my daughter and I are losing our food stamps. We're losing our food assistance because the rules are changing, and we don't fall in line with these rules. And I had thought, like, well, I could try to fudge it and try to make it sound like this and that. And I was just like, no, intuitively, I felt like it's just time to let that go. And it's time to really hook, because that's what we're doing, right? We're letting the old crumble, and we're aligning and attaching ourselves. Yes. Super gluing ourselves to our divinity, to the truth of reality, to to and through the portals that connect us. There's so many things I want to say. I want to keep interrupting myself, to that original template, the template that we're bringing online. Again, I just want to say real quick, through the water. That's where the water comes in, because the water holds that template, and it holds that memory, and it holds that. So when we work with the water, and we activate our water, and acknowledge the cosmic original blueprint and templates that the water holds, we activate that within ourselves. And so there's this real encouragement and opportunity and quickening to work in the etheric and in the intentional realms, astral realms as well, through our imagination. So we were talking about this in the last reading, maybe two readings, around the focus and the creation and the responsibility to create. Okay, so it just keeps coming louder and louder. But right now there are all these portals through the elements, them being like, hey, don't forget about us, because you are this is you too. This is the way we work in the behind, through this portal that Magenda's talking about. And it's not like, oh, it just opens and then it closes. It's like it's opening, like things are shifting and changing within us on the planet, and it's like to turn our attention to that, right? So that's sort of what was happening for me with the trigger with my daughter, where there were energies coming into my home and into my sphere that were not supportive and throwing me off, and trying to set boundaries around that. But it was the perfect catalyst, because it catalyzed me into that primal range and the boundaries. And now it's like remembering that we set our boundaries through our energetic field, and through the intentions, and through the security measures that we place on our own auric field and on our home. And then if somebody wants to come in and they're not a match to the energy, guess what? They're not going to want to come in, or they're not going to be able to stay long. And just remembering that working in the behind, and with the energy, and with the intention with our attention is the most effective. If communicating with people and trying to have conversations and move things around in the physical isn't working, our real power is in the energy, and in the intention, and in the consciousness, and remembering that choice. Okay, so so the food stamps. So that was the other thing. And realizing that when we hook up and in and through, then we have our fingers and we have our fingers in the sockets, and then the abundance and the flow and the right company and all of that comes in as our birthright, because it's a birthright. It's like it's cosmic law. If you're aligned with the truth of reality, then you know, it's like you look at a cucumber, it has all these seeds. You know, you throw it on the ground, it gets some rain. You know, it's like the best compost pile I ever had was in Georgia, where it rained all the time. And you know, it's easy, right? That's how life is for us too, when we're in alignment with natural and cosmic law, and we just haven't been, right? But when we get that back, and so that's where I feel the losing of, I mean, it's like $550 a month. That's a lot of money for us. And yet it's like, it's okay. And I've talked about this before too, my relationship with money, because I've had to kind of like step away from everything at certain times in my life to preserve my soul and my spirit, my health and all that. I've been shown that none of this is real, you know? And it's like, whenever I would lose a big chunk of money, miraculously, another chunk in the same amount would come in a different way, you know? And so I just trust with money, and I really try to stay out of, I stay out of poverty consciousness. And it's like, you know, if I want something, even if I don't have the money and you know, or I have just enough, you know, even if it doesn't make sense to buy it, if I feel the energy to get this thing, you know, in support of whatever, I get it. And then the money comes. And I've watched this for, like 15 years now, you know, so it's kind of a test, you know, to have this money taken away, and to be, I could go into my mind, the neural pathways of worry are there, but they're not firing, because the energetic of the feeling of safety and the feeling of being held and just feeling that this is a positive thing that's moving me in the right direction is stronger. And I'm listening to that. And so my daughter is going through a similar thing where she keeps hurting herself, and she has a very active lifestyle. You know, she's a boxer, and she works out a lot. You know, she's just very, very physical after a lot of time of stagnancy. And so it helps her move her energy, and it helps her access her creative centers and all this. And so she keeps hurting herself, and then she's not able to do those activities. And so she was getting really, really triggered and going into sort of that, like, why am I being blocked from, you know, kind of this victim thing, and seeing the pattern. And so this time I feel she's breaking the pattern, because it's happened again. She hurt her foot really bad. Now she can't walk, her ankle, and yet she's totally, it's like me with the money. It's like she's totally zen. You know, she's like, I can feel in the energy that it's okay, and that this is for me, and that this is important. So we're both, and you might be feeling this too in your life, or if you're not, you know, if you are going through something that's stressing you out, maybe lean in a little bit behind into that oracle, you know, that oracle, that part of you that can be easily overridden or ignored or not listened to, because it is quite loud in the field, that because we are, and again, there's the wave, you know, where you get toppled, you get knocked down, you know, you got sand all in your eyes and all this, you know, and yet when you stand up, you're in a different place, and that different place is a place you needed to be. It's about alignment, right? And you needed those things to happen to get you there, that were hitting you in just the right places. And so that surrender. So there's that water element as well. And I think that's another message with the water coming up for so many of us to connect to. It is also the energy of water, with that flow and with that surrender and that trust and that allowing. And so I had this synchronicity, right around the time that I was feeling the analogy with the wave. I heard this Patrick Watson song come on. I absolutely love Patrick Watson. He feels like water to me, the way his energy moves, his voice, and his lyrics, and what he does with the music. It like undulates, and oh my God, it's just so amazing. And I've loved him for a really long time. And so this song, I'll post it in case you're interested. It's called The Wave. And I was like, whoa, I've heard this song, but I never, because the way he sings, it's hard to hear what he's saying. But he was talking about that, learning to let the wave pass over you, you know, and I'm getting chills. And then he's saying, like, I'll meet you on the other side. And that's what it's like. It's like these pummels that we're having, these waves are taking us on the other side of, it's like on the other side of the split and the fall and the separation. Within ourselves and within our polarities, mirroring out into the world, into our relationships, that restoration. And again, back to the original, the pre-fall energy. It reminded me of many readings ago when I was Oh, so this is interesting. This was around the time that I was connecting with the water the first time in June. And what had happened for me, I'm talking, it's okay. I'm talking a lot in the beginning, this one, but I will pull some cards eventually. But after I connected with the water as I was programming my water, it became a portal, and I connected I met the cosmic, etheric, primal, original water. Like before, and what I had felt was like, that has nothing to do with the earth. Like before there was even an earth, just water, the consciousness of water, the original templates. And it was so powerful. And it was like out in space. And I just got all this information. And then shortly after that, I connected with somebody on Facebook, and he was in North Macedonia at the time, and he was posting these photos. So I do a lot with my photos as well with nature. I find the energy and the portals that connect through into that elemental realm, getting chills, and then I share them. And so that I'm sharing portals, and I never really said that out loud before. But now I am, which is interesting because I don't think I did anyway. Because with the portals that are this portal, with the elemental realm and with nature. So it's interesting that that's coming up today on the day that that's starting. But he does the same thing. He would do the same thing. So we were journeying and transferring codes through each other's photos, and it was really amazing. And so what he was sharing was the Orid Lake in North Macedonia, but there were these other lakes. There were these 3 lakes that fed into this spring, and he was talking about this primal water, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had literally just connected with this. And so here it is. I felt the energy. I saw it before bed one night, and it was in my dreams. I was journeying with the energy of that water in physical form on this earth, whereas I was so it felt like another portal into the earth, anchoring this energy, and it was so powerful. And so if you've been watching me for a while, this was back, remember the white horse reading? That he was the white horse, because then all this gorgeous, like, connecting restorative energy he wanted to pull into like sexual energy and make it about him. He wanted to like steal it for himself and his own, whatever. And so that was kind of weird. It was like the distraction. So again, it's like the goblins at the gate. When you're going through a portal into great expansion, there's going to be these little distractions, these little goblins that, kind of keep you from going there, right? But so right around the time that I was processing that, I had this real visceral, kind of like with the sacred rage, where it went back. I had this real visceral connection with the memory of, which is crazy. Oh my God, life is so amazing. It's all just like this weaving of webs. Like, I'm just seeing all the patterns. Last night, I was doing some energy work on my daughter's where she hurt herself, and she's like, can you check my grief? I feel so sad right now. And what I felt in her lung was, I saw a little Erme. I saw her. Ooh, I felt it. I started crying immediately, when I almost did right now too. It's like she was 2.5, and it was like this big grief. But what I saw in her was the same thing, which I didn't remember at first. It came afterwards, was what I saw when I was sitting out in my sunspot along the road. This is why I don't acknowledge people, because I'm busy. I'm doing shit, and it's like I saw the exact moment where we were unified, and then things split. And there was like just as an example, like a 6-second period where you were conscious and you remembered the unity while the split was happening, and you were like, oh my God. And you knew what was happening because you chose it and you came here for this, and you saw that split, and you knew where you were going, and that you were going to go into amnesia, and you were aware of how hard it was going to be to get it back. And so it's like, for me, that was like the greatest grief, because you felt the grief that you knew you were going to feel, but not know what you were feeling. I don't know if that's making sense, but I know some of you felt that. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I saw that in my daughter, that same energy. And I was like, wait, I remember this energy. And I remembered when I remembered it, right? But what was very clear to me is that we're having these types of memories and reconnections now, because it actually is coming back on. After all that moment where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to forget everything, and it's going to be so hard to come back on, and I'm going to go through all this darkness. And now we're starting to remember. So we're coming back around. So it's the other side of the circle when you start to fall. And I talk about this with the Atlantean timelines too. You know, you're going down in consciousness to the point of the catastrophe. Now we're going up in consciousness, the consciousness of the catastrophe, and it triggers all those memories. But we're awakening. So it's the opposite. It's the opposite polarity, but it can trigger a lot of those memories. So it's like that. It's like, you know, you remembered when you were falling, and now you're remembering that fall, but it's because it's coming back online. Okay. So a lot of that access through the water, through the grief, through the emotions, through the fire, through the rage, through the reclaiming to purify, right? So, wow. So all of that, I think I said it all. I think I said everything that I wanted to say. So I am going to jump into the cards now. It's like the channel just ran out. So let's pivot. And there might be more. There might be more as well. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we get Turkey spirit. And again, remember, I've been saying the sevens have been coming through as this meet you on the other side, you know, the other side, where we make those shifts, we go through those waves and we stabilize in the truth of reality, where we lose all the false systems, we lose all the false mental constructs, we lose all the false relationships, all the self-abandonments, till we stabilize in this energy. So there's that 7 again, and the give with gratitude and grace. And so it kind of reminds me of like the food stamp analogy, where it's like when you're in the energy of giving and receiving, it's a flow. The money analogy, I should say, it's a or situation, it's a flow, you know, where you're flowing. And what's interesting is so before the water thing, before all this, so this is all in the last week, I realized that okay, so it's like this is also an energy of safety, you know, giving and receiving with grace. You know, you're safe, there's flow, you know, there's energetic exchange, and everything's in its right place and this type of thing. And so again, with the energy of creation, it's like we call forth these realities, we pull them to us, and we live them when we believe in them and when we focus on them. That's how we create them. And if we believe in them, but we also are plagued with doubt and fear and programming, then we're diluting our creative power, because it's like we have to be hooked up with that channel and we have to flow it directly without any leaks. And then we're in that flow of giving and receiving, and we're in the garden, we're in the 7. What if we're leaking in fear? You know, then of course there are all these distractions out here that get you to be afraid and all the things, you know, and the linear, because I was saying to my daughter, like, I could look at your situation or my situation from a linear way and be really scared. But we know that the linear is just the play out of what we're creating with our energy and our focus and our consciousness. So we're just not doing that anymore. And that was that whole thing with the sacred rage and the reverberation, where it's like, we're not abandoning the inner knowing anymore. You know, we've had outer reflections of that, where like, nobody's listening to me and nobody's respecting my boundaries, you know, this type of thing. And it's like, so stay with that part of you. Don't abandon it within yourself, right? And so anyway, so not leaking anything. And it's really hard because, again, there's all these hooks in the outer world that pull us into that fear and pull us into that doubt, and pull us into the linear and this is what it looks like, you know, it looks like this out here. So there's the proof. And it's like, you're seeing the proof of your doubt and your fear, because that's what you're creating. So it's like, we're going to see the proof of our, of this when we align with it without leaking our energy. And again, it's tricky, but we can do it with anything, and we can start small, start in some area of your life. You know, if this is new for you, start in some area of your life that might be a little small, and work with that. We're just keeping your focus and your belief, where you just don't allow any doubts or any fear or any, because they're all mind control programs. You know, it's a mind control. Fear and doubt is a mind control. It's a lie. It's false. If we didn't have those programs, and we didn't have any conditioning around fearing or doubting our visions, our oracle, our inner oracle, we would just be able to create. And of course, this is the earth game. And again, we chose to fall into amnesia. Now we're coming back, but we're going to get back. So it's like, this is how we do it. You know, like, let's get on the front of the train, you know, because if we're resonating with this, we are on the front of the train, and we have the ability, or whatever analogy you want to use, we have the ability to do this. We just have to have the conviction. But again, it's all supported, you know, so it's like all the weaves that come in are helping to refine us, to help us to do this more and more and more. And yet when we get purified and cleared and we see a new level, coming together and talking about it, putting it into consciousness helps ground it and stabilize it so that we can secure that platform so that we can live it more and expand even more and do more and more and more of this. Okay. So that feels connected. That feels connected to this energy. And so, but what I was going to say is, I was working with that consciously, where I think I had mentioned this in one of the readings, like my friend and I, we both kind of said in the same week to our family members that what we wanted more than anything else was to just feel safe. And for me, I knew if I felt safe, if I could manage to feel safe in my body and in this realm, then I would be able to create, because I wouldn't be, having that doubt and constriction and tension. And so one of the ways I've been working with that, because I grind my teeth, I've been wearing a mouth guard at night for like 5 years now, and they're horrible. They're horrible. They're big and clunky and all this. And, it's just the worst thing ever. But I needed it because I was chipping teeth and all this. And so, but then I was like, wait a minute, like the energy's different now. Like, yeah, I still have stressful things and purges and all this and contractions, but I have the consciousness and I have the understanding of what it is. So anyway, I just decided that I was good. I was like, maybe I can go to like a hypnotherapist and they can help program me that I'm safe. But I ended up finding this hypnotherapy free YouTube thing on YouTube, and it was for teeth grinding. And so she reprograms your subconscious that every time you go to clench or tense or whatever, grind, you relax. And so I've been doing this. I've been doing it just the last like 3 or 4 days. And last night I didn't wear my mouth guard and I wasn't grinding and I wasn't clenching. I would do this thing where I would like put my teeth together. I just like tap them like really lightly. And I don't know if I'm like, where's that big clunky thing that I've been with like every night, like my true partner here. Where is that thing? Or if it's just like, I'm starting to do it and then I'm like, no, I don't know, but I'm working with this. Okay. And so I think it's really funny. Like right when I was like, all I want to do is feel safe. And okay, I'm programming my subconscious to like be able to relax at night, where it's not like, like thinks it's outrunning tigers every single night. Unconsciously. And then, it's like the security measures were being hit in my physical life with the money and with energies coming into my house that felt like to me in my sacred space, in my healing space, and this type of thing. Right. And so safety stuff. And yet, and that crunch and that catalyst to choose to feel safe anyway, because the true safety is through our alignment, through our alignment. And the way to truly have our life flow, with the giving and the receiving, is to hook up in that way and to suspend our reliance or dependence on false systems of security, however that presents. So there's big messages in that too. Remember, that was a personal reading that I did. There was a lot of red and the anchoring and the grounding, but there was a lot in that reading as well. I didn't know it at the time. That was the reading, because this woman and I, we work together. We work collectives together, original. We work all the stuff that I talk about. Her and I work on together. And so in that reading for her, which was for us, which is also for all of us, part of me was like, should I post that? That was really profound, but kind of summarizing some of it in here. But there was a lot with the water. And I said to her, I was like, I feel like there's something with the water and some of these symbols that you're gonna get. And she did. And she brought through the piece around the water. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I had just started doing the reprogramming, connecting with my water again. Anyway, that's how it came through. But so a lot with the oh crap, I lost my train of thought. A lot with the original. I think I was talking about the original, the restoration. I don't know. I'm gonna move on. It might be clear to you what I was getting at. Sometimes when I watch people and they never finish their sentences, it's like, it's okay, because what get the telepathy going too. Oh, okay, cool. The 3 of Cups. So that's sort of what I was talking about with the woman I did the reading for, my friend, because we're working together. So 3 of Cups being a card of collaboration and also celebration. And so there is a message of celebration here, where we are reaching these, we are, again, the 7, we are reaching these levels, and we're collaborating together, even in joining in consciousness with this reading today or any of these readings. We're journeying together. We're talking about subtle energies, and we're bringing them into consciousness and into clarity, and we're stabilizing our energy fields, and we're being reassured and validated and what's going on, and we're putting it together, our puzzle pieces. And it's interesting because there's another woman that works with my friends, another woman that works with me and this woman I was mentioning, and we all hold different pieces, and yet when we come together we kind of like anchor this energy. And so gives me chills. Finding that, in your communities, even on Facebook or on YouTube, the people that you listen to, the communities that you resonate with, where we're talking about these deeper, subtle things, and putting them into some sort, because the again, like when we're talking about creation, it's like, and what we were talking about last time with the throat, speaking things from the highest. Wording that you can channel, the most accurate wording for the channel that you're having, speaking it into existence, speaking it into clarity, speaking it into consciousness, and then joining with others again where two or more gather, and grounding and anchoring that energy. And that feels really important. I can't even count the number of times this week that I've communed with, or this year or the last couple years. I felt like the collaboration energy really came on about 2 years ago, where things got so intense. I was like, and then I started finding the soul family. And that happened on Facebook, actually, where all of a sudden, like, everything broke open and I started finding my people, all over the world. And then it's continued more and more and more. We're finding each other on there. And also in my community, because again, the more we can, it's funny because like my throat is like kind of getting all weird right now. That's fine. But the more we can express and speak and share and speak from these higher truths, the more we find our people, where we're not diluting our knowing or our connection. And I used to do that in sessions. I would channel through all kinds of weird stuff. And then people would leave. I'd feel like real panicky because I wouldn't really understand. I hadn't like quite caught up with what I was accessing. I wasn't like integrated enough, but I could bring the information through. But and I would get really nervous. And so what happened in sessions for me is like, the energy won't move unless I speak it, because it's like it or my higher self or whatever knew that I was scared to say these weird things. And so it would just kind of be like, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to say this weird thing, and I still do that sometimes. I'm like, this might sound a little weird, but, and then it comes out, and the energy will move because it wants to be brought into consciousness. It wants to be translated into words, and it wants to be said so that the consciousness of the other person can hear. Sometimes then we collaborate and they bring forward whatever colors or images or emotions or feelings they're having, and then we figure things out. And it's like we're working the energies, we're working the template, we're rewiring the template. And so everybody that I work with in sessions and readings a lot of the times too, if people can really open up, and sometimes they don't, but I need to encourage people more, probably, but it's that collaboration, and that's that co-creation energy, and needing the different pieces that we all offer, and needing so a lot. And that's the thing, we can do a lot in the astral, we can do a lot in the energetic, and I like how this matches my shirt. We can do a lot in the astral, and in the energetic, but then it's got to trickle out and become physical. So we have to apply, again, the integration, like we were talking about last time. We got to either get triggered, and have some kind of purge around it to make room for it, or we have to paint it or chalk it, or do something in the physical to anchor it and to bring it here, because so much about what we're doing is we're anchoring down and embodying these higher energies, and bringing them here, and doing that in collaboration with others, where the two or more gather with the voices and the different pieces, and maybe somebody's working with art and somebody's working, whatever it is. It gives me chills, because I was just about to say there's a plan to that. There's a symphony and a plan to the people that you're connecting with, and the timing and in what ways, and just really trusting that too. Trusting how guided we are, how guided and supported. I think it's really interesting. Also, this woman that I've been talking about, hello, if you're watching, we've been having throat things, and I know a lot of us have having throat things, scratchy throat, like stuff with the mouth, that kind of thing. There's a lot of emphasis on speaking right now, speaking and not speaking, like not speaking what we don't want, but speaking what we do want. And even like our own, we could say interference, interference, externally, or however, but really it's also in us, our own resistance, the times when we were silent. So like me, for example, when I was in an abusive situation, and it was hard for me to speak up, because I didn't always want to fight or be attacked or whatever, and so those things in us that silence ourselves, right? And so, but speaking anyway, even if you got a frog or it's kind of tight. Like yesterday, oh my God, I just remembered, I was talking to my daughter. and I was talking about this pattern, and I went so deep into it, into the pain body, and I was talking, and my throat closed up, and I couldn't even speak. It's like I couldn't even breathe. I was like choking on it, and I was like, oh, this is so good. Like I'm getting so deep in there, So a lot with the throats and the speaking and the commanding and the intending. And so like for her, she cut her ankle. She slammed her foot. I mean, pretty bad. She had to go to the ER doing jujitsu with this guy with the energy, and reckless. And so and she can't move her foot. Could just be bruising, swelling, whatever. But there might be some. We're going to a specialist because there might be something else going on because she can't really feel it. All these things. And so I was like, remember to intend, intend, use your consciousness to healing and call those nerves back to life, whatever, just using that. And that's something that comes up in the sessions all the time. I mention this a lot, and it's worth mentioning again, where I'll feel or see a certain energetic signature in somebody's field. Did I talk about this last time? I want to talk about this. There was a woman that I was working with, and so often it'll be like, oh, I feel, Archangel Raphael or something like that. It's just, I use these analogies a lot. There are many of them, but I use them so they're on the tip of my tongue. But tip of my mind. Yeah. And then the person said, oh, I feel this in your field. Oh yeah, I work with him every day. Okay. So what we focus on, what we conjure is around us, So in this session, this woman in her solar plexus, there was like this energy of like honey and nectar and bees and buzzing. And I could see this like generative energy and I was thinking like it's almost like an affirmation or like a mantra, but I didn't say it because there was another association, and I just got, whatever, I got distracted, and it let me move on. It didn't make me say it. Anyway, and so it felt like she was like generating something that was going out. Well, at the end, she told me that she says every morning an affirmation about the sweetness of life, welcoming the sweetness of life. So I could see, so that this is why I'm sharing this, because it's like proof, I could see how what she was saying, the affirmation that she said every day, was literally in her field and generating. It was what's generating? Creating. It was creating what she was bringing forth. I could feel it. I could feel the creational energy and the hum, the generating, so anyway, just that as like proof, a reminder that what we focus on and what we intend has effects, because everything is energy. It's all energy. The form is just how we concentrate it. So remembering our power to concentrate it in ways that we want. And I used to say that to myself. It's like if something would come, that I was like, oh, that doesn't feel right. I'd say, well, that's not the reality that I'm choosing to create. And why would I put my energy and my focus and my thoughts and my worry on a reality that I don't want? Because my thoughts and my energy, my focus are creating. So I'm going to go to the highest, most audacious timeline that I can find. Sky's the limit, and as I say that, it's like sometimes when you go sky's the limit, then you do welcome in a lot of trials and shit to get you there, because it's like, oh, you're here and you want this, but that's cool, want this, and it's like, but then I gotta go through this, to get to that, so that's fine too, but just keep that in mind, right? But just with anything, it's like just remembering. And I remember hearing this one woman saying this one time. She was working with her mother who had passed over, and her mother was coming and guiding her. And she was saying like, well, there were some negative things happening in her life. And she was like, well, if you don't want those negative things, then choose what you do want and focus on that, and you can shift things that easily, and her mother knew that because she was on the other side of the veil. And so this woman trusted her mom. It was her mom, and so I was like, oh, that's so nice. Like I don't have a guide that's like, that I just channel, that's it. Like I do have guide. Like one of my friends was like, I was like, well, the synchronicities, and she's like, that is guidance. I'm like, I know, but I don't have anybody like talking in my head, that like makes me feel really safe and held and makes it easier to listen. But for that woman, it's like she could apply the things her mom was saying because she trusted her. She knew she wasn't just making it up, and she knew it wasn't like interference or whatever, and she got really good at like changing her timelines, and I feel like that's where humanity in general is. There's energy for that now. Okay. Yeah, that creation thing it comes through a little bit more every week. So the Four of Cups, and this is in my my fairy deck, my Tarot of the Hidden Realm. And so in this deck, it's the silky, you know, and the way this card is described in the guidebook, I haven't read it in a long time. Almost looks like she has like white roses on her breast. That's just interesting. I don't have, my vision is very soft, so I don't know if that's what it is, but that's what it looks like to me, and that feels very symbolic as well. And so what this card often comes through for as me, the guidebook is like, oh, when you're a silky, you want to be a human, and when you're human, you want to be a silky. But it's, for me, it translates into that like in-between space, that multi-dimensional space. So this card, different deck, came up in that reading I was talking about that I kind of wanted to share, but a lot of the same things are coming through in this one. You know, and there's the dolphin again, you know, and the dolphins are like this and that are both true. They can be above water. They can be, you know, they're mammals, but they're fish, and, you know, all this. Okay. So, that where we're connecting, we're connecting with the behind, we're connecting with the behind, and we're harnessing the behind to bring it through. So it's a card of multidimensionality for me, right? And working the different realms, and having the ability to traverse both realms. And you know both realms, you know human and you know silky, and yeah, maybe you miss them. You can't be in them at the same time, but it's like, no, that's not what this card is coming through for me right now. It's like we travel between them, and we are all things. And so that's the other thing, is like, you know, the sacred rage, you know, and it's like I wasn't raging on anybody else. I was on my cushion, you know, with my candle, and I was, you know, working the realms with that. But then in another moment, you know, I'm communing with the water. It's like we're shape shifting again. The shape shifting. We're going into whatever form we need, whatever form is called for the alchemy, or the highest and best for all concerned on all levels, in accordance with divine order, now and forever. That's my favorite prayer invocation. And, you know, it's just surrendering yourself to be that vessel, you know, this vessel that moves in between the different dimensions and archetypes and realms, to be what you need to be for the highest service, for the highest creation. Okay, that was a little bit of a channel, because I felt like I was going somewhere else, and then I went into that. So just trusting. Yeah, there's a lot today, so I'm just not gonna worry about it. If it's not making sense to me, that's fine. It is making sense to me, but I'm jumping. I'm just following. I'm listening. Okay. Wow. So this card came through in the other reading as well. It came through twice, two different cards. I think one of them was this, but that integration. And so that's also this with a multidimensionality, where you have all these different pieces of you, and yet there's a wholeness in you. You're all those things. And it's like that Walt Whitman quote, like, you say I contradict myself? Very well. I contradict myself then. I am large. I contain multitudes. That's been one of my favorite quotes for the last 20 years. And, you know, that, where again, that shape-shifting energy, where you're you're flowing through whatever you need to be flowing through in the moment for what is needed for the highest. And sometimes those can drastically contradict themselves. And so again, it's not linear. You can't make sense of yourself or anyone else. And that's the same thing with this collaboration energy too. It's like other people, and we've talked about this recently as well, other people playing their part, even if they're playing the part of the catalyst, you know, the catalyst that's getting you into that multidimensional space where you can call all your pieces back and have them all in one space, have your full power there, knowing that you're allowed to be everything and all of it, you know. But again, you know, not only are you shape-shifting into the ways you need, but the characters in your life are as well, right? So there's that divine symphony energy again. Okay, let me, I'm at 52 minutes already. Oh man. Okay, I do have a session later, so I could keep going, but I probably will wrap it up because I have to move into that kind of soon. Not so anyway, I'm just gonna keep going. And all right, let me focus. Oracle card here. Oh, wow. Okay. The arrow. So the arrow, and that's a number 3 card. So the 3s being again about forward movement, and the arrow as well. And it's like the arrow has been released, and it has its trajectory, and it's landing. You know, it's like the arrow has is going. And so that kind of ties back up into this give and receive with grace, where it's like we're already in this energy. We're just trying to we're being invited to harness it. We're being invited. So with the the arrow, there's a focus energy as well. You focus on where you want to go. You focus, and so there it is again. You know, oops, sorry. Okay, you focus on what you're intending, the highest timeline, the highest timeline and expression that you can reach. So we were talking about that before too. When you see something and it doesn't make sense in the linear, just stay open to it, because it's staying open to it and allowing it to be there and not shutting it down with doubt and fear is pulling back that arrow. You're releasing that arrow, and you're allowing life. You're allowing life and synchronicity and the perfection of the shape-shifting hologram to take you where you're to where you're intending to go. It's not even like intending to go is the right word, but it sounds too linear and it sounds too brainy. You know, it's like where your soul is intending to go, where humanity is intending to go, where we've, from the beginning of time with the progression of the ages, are destined to go at this time. It's just hooking up your sight and your scope for that, and not getting distracted on these other things. And so that was the thing for me with the white horse guy, where I was tuning in on the water and the portals and coming back to that original thing. And then here's this false light energy that was a part of that. But then, I don't know, just he got distracted or something and wanted something for himself, you know, and it kind of pulled me off the path. And I had to process all of that. But that was a part of the journey too, because it was part of me cleaning up my boundaries and, you know, all these things, all the steps that we have to take, all again, the coyote medicine, right? That was coming up last time to get us into alignment so that we can create properly, you know, so that we can put our sights without distractions. And it's like, I feel like that's what we're coming into now, is just not being distracted, having the proper boundaries, having the proper energetic boundaries, having the proper boundaries and conjurings with our speech and with the words that we're using and the way we're talking about ourselves and our lives and what we want, aiming, having true aim, true north, aiming true north, and allowing that arrow to release, knowing that that it's being taken care of, again, through all of the things that come in our lives. And so that's where the surrendering to the wave, allowing the wave to pass over you, because you know that it's this arrow, you know, it's taking you, it's taking you and moving you and rearranging you to where you need to go, so you can surrender to it, all that with the water. Okay, I think I'm just going to do a closing message there. It's just such a small amount of cards. I'll do another oracle here, because I love these decks. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. A tidy house, clarity, and organization. And of course, this card comes through different ways depending on the reading, but this really is, sometimes it can be like the busy mind, you know, the mind that wants to like organize everything and won't stop. Came through like that in a reading recently. But in this case, it really is about clarity and organization, where you're not getting distracted. There's a lot around distractions. So we were talking about that in the last reading too. When you break through into a new level, here's a 1, you know, you expand, you're in a new energy. Those goblins at the gate, you know, again, the distractions, the things that, you know, the attacks, it can be attacks through people or entities through people, or it can be psychic attack in the night, or it can be just distractions, things that just pull your energy and make you look over here, or make you doubt, or just confuse you, right? All the different ways that you can be pulled away from your inner oracle and your inner knowing. And so in this case, it's so interesting. I had this dream. Wow. I had this dream the other night. I dream about houses a lot, and I often dream that I'm moving into a new house. And so I think that happens when I expand and I'm in this sort of new energy, and then I'm moving into a new house. And so, or I'm looking for houses, you know, I'm like, I'm looking for a new house. And so there was this house, and it was like really, really big. And I was like, wow, you know, like there's a lot of rooms. And there was this one room that I was like, oh, I want this room for myself. Like there's something really interesting about the windows and all this stuff. But right outside the window was an amusement park. And there was right outside the window was a roller coaster. And there were all these people like screaming walking and going down in these things. And I was like, I don't want this house. Like I would never get any sleep. So there's that sort of like distraction and that energy in the house. And oh, it's so interesting. Here it is again, all the patterns, but preserving your house and the energy in your house, making your home a sanctuary so that you can hear and you can have your clarity and your organization in your mind and in your energy field. So you're not unnecessarily leaking your energy on things that you don't need to be leaking, just to organize things in a way. Again, the requirements for self-care being different because we're trying to do this, we're trying to land something really multidimensional and big, and a lot of us working in collaboration together. And so really needing to preserve our psyches and our spaces and all of that. But in the dream, the bathroom was haunted. So I was like, oh, I could never live here. I'd be creeped out every time I went into that bathroom. And then as I was walking out, because I was like, nah, I don't want this house. I saw the foundation and it was literally crumbling. So much symbolism in that as well. Whereas the old house, the old structure that was holding us is crumbling. It's full of distractions. It's full of demons. We're just gonna say no to that house and go somewhere else. So a lot of symbolism and messages around preserving our sacred space. That means our bodies, our energy field, our homes, our relationships, just securing the boundaries so that our energy isn't leaking, that we're not being pulled into distraction, doubt, fear, and so that we have our all of our energy accessible to us to reach what we're here to do, to fulfill our mission in collaboration with each other on these multidimensional levels where we really are restoring the timelines and again the portaling, the access through the elements, and everything that we're capable of doing in the behind, and everything that comes as a reward because of that. When we're putting our energy in the right way and we're trusting in the truth of reality, and what is our birthright as a result. It's just like you give, you receive, you align properly, you get what you're aligned to, right? It's really that simple. It's just we've been so programmed away from that simplicity, so that we, it's like a slave state versus co-creation, heaven on earth, which is what we're remembering, what we're coming back to, what we're rising into again. So I think that's a good message to stop on. I'm going to stop there. Thank you for listening. I'm excited to go back and listen to this and see if I made sense. I'm sure I did. I just, when you're in that channel and it's not linear, you can feel a little like, wait, what am I saying? So anyway, thank you for collaborating and listening and putting your energy on this. And feel free to share if you feel to. I always love the comments and the collaboration, because then we anchor the energy even more in that way. So, all right, much love to you all. And yeah, just hanging in there through these waves and knowing that they're taking us. It's part of how the arrow is going to where we aimed it. We might have aimed it a long time ago, a long time ago. And so our humans might not remember, and yet we still have access to all those different pieces and archetypes, and they are moving through us as they need to, when they need to, as well as through the characters in our lives. This collaborative goal is happening, whether we want to acknowledge it or know it or not. But the more that we can believe and know, the faster it will move. The faster it will move, because we're creating this. And oh my gosh, it's so profound. Anyway, thank you for being here. I'm so grateful for all of you that choose to listen, especially if you're right here at the end. Then we're soul family, and we're doing this together, and it's so beautiful. So I'm grateful for your energy. All right, much love. Bye-bye.